Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Handmaid's Tale Season 2, Episode 2. It is called Unwomen. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. So this shifted us a little bit in terms of focus. We went to Emily, aka the original of Glenn,
Yes.
who we now see the colonies, and Marissa Tomei shows up out of nowhere. Now, not completely out of nowhere. I remembered hearing that she was a guest star in season 2, but I'd forgotten about it. So when she popped up in this episode, I went, "That looks like Marissa Tomei." A couple of seconds passed. Oh, wait a minute! It is Marissa Tomei. That's the thing. So we get that. We get flashbacks, but not for June. We get them for Emily this episode, and we get her backstory. We'd heard pieces of this.
Yeah.
Just of her family, of her home life, in season 1 when she was around. But we actually get to see this a lot more. So a big theme of this episode is certainly because she was gay and how they were treated specifically as all this stuff was going down. And there's a neat little reference in the flashback to the thing that just happened in Washington, which places it right after the flashback of the last episode, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, I was like, she was, what just happened in DC? I was like, oh, okay, so that's some timeline for me.
Yeah. I wonder if, like, when the show's done, let's say it goes 5 seasons, if we can, like, make, like, a puzzle and put all the flashbacks in order.
Flashbacks in chronological order, I'm sure you could.
Yeah, I bet it'll be like not an extra because it would take up too many discs, but like the chronological version of The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
Maybe not the new stuff, but just all the flashbacks like, edited into order as like a story of everything falling apart.
If not, someone will do it on YouTube, don't worry.
Well, maybe not YouTube, they'll get...
they'll go on YouTube first, and then
It'll get taken down, and then someone will just find it in the dark web somewhere.
Yeah.
So that was very much the theme. We had a couple of notable guest stars in this one. Other than Marissa Tomei, of course, first and foremost, big name. But on top of that, we had John Carroll Lynch, who we saw in Channel Zero Season 2 most recently. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He was in the flashbacks, as was Emily's wife, played by Clea Duvall, who, of course, was in The Grudge.
Yeah.
Doing Argo.
Yeah.
And the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
No, there we go. I was waiting for it.
I wanted to keep thinking of other things she'd been in, because I've definitely seen her in more, but I wanted to keep it going and going and going. And then...
Yeah.
Actually, I think she was in Better Call Saul at one point. I think she was a doctor in Better Call Saul. Maybe I'm thinking of another show.
I mean, she might have been. There's a small enough part.
No spoilers, but just there was a point where Chuck was in the hospital and Saul was talking to a doctor. I feel like that was her in my head. But I could be just making this up.
I remember when you're talking about, I can picture the scene, but I don't necessarily picture her face. But that doesn't mean it wasn't her.
Yeah, so there you go. So we have a bunch of notable guest stars, and that's a big focus of the episode. We see that in the colonies, Emily's kind of become the nurse of the group, just because she has some, she's not a doctor in that sense. She's like a lecturer, professor,
microbiologist,
university. Yeah, so she obviously has some basic skills, but that is not her expertise. She's just kind of making do because no one else can.
Yeah.
And she's going around helping them, and it's this hard labour. They're basically there like dying slowly, and they're just forced to work until they can't anymore.
I think what's impressive to me is we spent a long time being told just how horrendous the colonies were, how it's this really slow, agonizing death. And, it was built up so much that I kind of thought we were never going to see it because it's hard to live up to it. But to its credit, it doesn't feel like it was oversold.
Yeah, I think the most obvious thing to compare it to, not so much... Not so much the work to death aspect, but in every other way, it very much reminds me of concentration camps.
Yeah.
Like in any movie I've ever seen a concentration camp from Nazi Germany, I feel like this is very similar in how it feels.
Oh yeah.
But, with all the people with guns, they've been forced to work. The way they're all sort of having these horrible conditions, the water's tainted, like everything else. By the way, this is two episodes in a row of this show that has done something to make me go, ugh.
You're not a fan of the fingernail?
Nails being peeled off like that, I'm not a fan of, no.
Do you know what? That used to really bother me. And then I think it just... There was a time where I feel like people were like, oh yeah, that'll get them. And I saw it in quite a few places over a few months, and I'm just, okay, it doesn't bother me anymore.
It still makes me squirm a bit, although I'm getting sick of me squirming and you not. So basically now I'm asking them for episode 3, lots of syringes and lots of eyes, please.
Hey, it might happen.
It may happen, not given this show. So we see that, and Marissa Tomei is this new person who's shown up, and they all hate her. They spit in her face. Like all the other, like, you know, the women who are there, and it's like, okay, why? And it quickly becomes apparent she wasn't a handmaid.
No.
She was a commander's wife, and now she's here because she had an affair. That's why she's here. So they all hate her guts. Like they are, and over the course of the episode, it's like Emily's being a little bit more kind to her. Just these little things here or there. Like she's just being a little bit nice. She moves the nail. She gives her some medical advice. But then it takes a dark freaking turn.
Yeah, it does.
Because here's the thing, like, because at one point she says, "Hey, a mistress once did something nice for me," and we kind of saw that in season 1. We saw that her mistress was kind of nice to her for
She was, yeah.
in comparison to what Serena Joy gets up to with June. It was
She was treated with a modicum of respect given the positions.
And so when she said that, it kind of made some sense. At the same time, the whole situation is awful as shit, but at least the statement made sense on its own.
There was a plausibility to it.
Yeah. And then she's getting sick really quickly. And so I didn't realize I'd get sick this quick. And she gives her like some antibiotics, right? And here's a neat touch that I liked here is that when she gives her directions, I was like, oh yeah, I've had antibiotics before. That's exactly the directions I had as well. They did their research here, I guess, is what I'm saying. I mean,
it's not much for antibiotics, is it?
Well, it's not. I mean, yeah, most people have had to take them at some point in their life. But it was a nice touch because it's exactly the sort of little detail they might just flub.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. I feel like it's the sort of thing you could rattle off your head. 2 pills, 4 hours apart. 3 or 4 times a day.
Yeah. But the big twist at the end is that she didn't give her antibiotics. She gave her something else, and she's killed her. That she's dying.
Yeah, it was poison essentially.
And she basically,
for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, and she sits down. She's lying on the floor. She's like in pain, and she just leans over and says, "Like, you think you could ever be forgiven? When you held back the handmaid and your husband raped her every month, like, that can't be forgiven." And that's it. And, they all got up the next morning and like, presumably Emily, maybe some of the others, have put her on a cross outside. And, obviously the ants who are there with the gas masks. Notice how they've all got gas masks for this condition, but all the workers are all just...
Yeah, well, I mean, for them it's a death sentence. It's just, you might as well work while you die.
Pretty much, yeah. So, no, that was a really dark twist. And it was... But at the same time, as much as it was plausible before, you can't blame her or like say it's not justified or say that you don't understand the motivation once she actually reveals that she's poisoned her.
Honestly, my biggest disappointment is maybe that they actually just killed her. It seems like it's the easy way out once they're here. Like, if she just made her, like, kept her pretty sick, but then she still had to go and work, that seems like a much better punishment. Well, I'm just thinking, even like before, when Aunt Lydia was saying, "You know what, you should have just stoned her because now she's going to have to go for a really painful, suffering death. This long forced labor until she drops."
I think it's twofold. I think 1, they don't want her to be around because they just hate her that much, and 2, I think because of how sick she made her, I think very quickly the ants would notice how sick she is, and they'd maybe just kill her quickly anyway.
Yeah, maybe.
So they wanted to make the statement by saying we did this and put her out on display. It was a statement more than anything else. I mean, it's a fair like point to bring up, but I think
I get that. The statement thing does make sense, but given how vindictive it actually ultimately was, I feel like that seems almost generous.
Maybe in an odd way though, that's showing that as vindictive as this is, they aren't as vindictive as they are. As the mistresses and the commanders.
Because it almost is a mercy in some ways. Because she's only suffering for what, 12 hours a day.
Yeah, well, for one day, yeah.
Yeah, 12 hours to a day, roughly.
Sure. I think you said a day, and I'm like, no, it's just one day. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no.
Everyone else is suffering 12 hours a day.
Yeah, no, I meant she's suffering, from when she starts to get sick to death. It's about, between 12 hours and a day or so.
Yeah, whatever it is, yeah. So no, that worked. And obviously the flashbacks, we see that she's a good teacher. There's a moment where like this guy in the crowd kind of tries to mansplain one of the other students, and she sort of takes the student aside at the end. Hey, like, don't let that get you down. Like, it'll keep happening, but you're smart. You're in the class because you deserve to be here, and so on.
I appreciate that she called it out in the class as well. She's like, nah, studies have just shown that thing you've just said completely wrong.
Yeah, because he tries to, like, no, that's not right because of this. The studies say this. And then she goes, no, actually, there's been new studies that prove this wrong. She kind of shoots him down a little bit. And I like that because it's like, you didn't necessarily make a whole big speech about mansplaining, you just made them feel like shit for it.
Yeah, it was. It's one thing to take them aside at the end and talk to them, but to do that in front of the class, I think it's much more satisfying.
Yeah, and it's like he should have hopefully learned his lesson not to be a snide little shit about being right all the time.
Pretty much.
A lesson you could learn, actually.
I'm never going to learn it.
And not with women, just in general, with everyone.
You can keep trying, but it's just not going to happen.
You're a corrective little shit.
I am.
So, but then the dark side to this is that, I mean, we don't know if it's the student herself who was getting the advice here, because she seemed to like her teacher, but later on, like, we hear this, like, our boss, played by John Lynch, Dan, his character, he's like, her superior, and he's like, oh, by the way, you're going to get more lab time. And she's like, oh, that's great, but because of that, you'll be doing less teaching. And she's like, wait a minute, like, you're taking me out of the class, like, you're taking my job, and you're trying to, like, dress it up with, hey, but you're getting lab time, you're doing something else. And then, like, she keeps digging as to why, and it's like, do you have a photo of your family on your phone? It's like, well, yeah, of course I do. I got my wife and my daughter. He's like, yeah, well, someone saw it, and it's been deemed, like, the administrative, like, the trickle down from up top is basically that's inappropriate. So we're taking away from the public eye, and she like accuses him quite harshly of like, she doesn't quite say homophobia because that wouldn't make sense given what we find out in a second. Because at first we don't know he's gay as well.
Yeah.
Because it turns into this discussion of like, I thought my generation was the last to put up with this bullshit.
Yeah, she kind of just mentions, hey, I noticed you took down all the pictures of Paul from your office.
You remember the husband's name? That's amazing. Go on.
Yeah, I don't know. It was there. Yeah. And and it was just like, he's like, yeah, I did, because I quite like to keep living, essentially.
Yeah, because I think that goes back to him saying that his generation had to put up with this, so he kind of like had to survive through it in the first place. So he's
almost willing to go back to it just because he's done it once, he can do it again.
Yeah, it's not so much that he likes having to do it, but he just understands, or he at least remembers what he had to do back then. And because he even says, "Oh, because we all hated your generation at first, because we thought, oh, you all have it easy compared to us, because you're of this new generation.
You didn't have the struggles that we did."
Yeah. So no, that was an interesting conversation. I thought. I feel like I've not seen many conversations in a movie or a TV show where it's like two generations of gay characters, like kind of, and the older one kind of like talking about how it's different for them. Like I feel like I've not had that as often as other.
No, it's true.
Other situations. And then we see, of course, they're trying to get out of the country. Her wife's Canadian. They're trying to get to the airport, and basically, the ace guy at the front is quite nice about it. He's like, "Oh, you brought your marriage certificate. That was a good thinking, bringing this, because this will maybe let you get through."
Yeah, he can't just let them through because. Yeah. I mean, fair enough. That's not his responsibility. So he goes, right, go get it stamped, and that'll let it through.
Yeah, but then of course they go to get it stamped and they get grilled and basically told that they don't recognise this document anymore, and I wasn't sure to read this as, was the guy at the front just not wanting to be the bad guy, so he just made it sound like it was going to be okay, so he didn't have to deal with the commotion, or two other options. One, it changed so quickly since he sent them through that it's gotten worse, or option three is that everyone else like past him is just much worse than he is.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually changed officially yet.
Yeah, okay, because
that makes sense. when they say what's the rule that says we can't do this? That says it's invalid, that we're not married, and he says it's the law, and then they go to which law? Like going okay, if it was amended, if there was a new law, what was it? He just says the law.
Yeah, the law. He really emphasised the.
Right, so it really feels like no, this is okay. This is the personal vindictiveness. It's not actually a written law that's denouncing the.
At least not yet, anyway. I mean, I'm sure. Yet. By the time we get to Gilead, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. But I don't think in that moment. I think it was the movement that was clearly happening wanted it denounced, but I don't think it happened officially yet. But he was just abusing his position of power to do it anyway.
Yeah, so we get this heartbreaking sort of, exit, and there was actually a point where they were kissing each other, and I was actually worried that one of the ace guards or something were going to come up and like hit them or something for kissing in public. But we get this heartbreaking sort of goodbye, and because this is like playing out throughout the episode, as we get towards the reveal that she's actually killing the wife, Marissa Tomei's character, I'm like, man, you're actually like really like building up the justification over of why she hates them so much, why everything that's been taken. Because obviously, I mean, as always, this show does a good job of making you feel like absolute garbage inside. Like, there's no hope for the world.
It's pretty much its signature move.
It is. But then there's little flickers of hope, and I don't think there's any hope in her plot this episode, but hopefully she finds some hope soon. Of course, the big thing at the end is, because obviously at the start we see the bus pull up, and that's when Marissa Tomei gets off. At the end as well, the bus pulls up, and I'm like, oh, someone's going to step off that bus, we know. And for some reason, it never clicked to me, because we knew someone was getting sent here. It never clicked that it was going to be Janine.
Yeah, did it not?
No, for some reason, it never occurred to me until she stepped off the bus, and I went, "Oh, okay, yeah, Janine's here." So now we have two characters at the colonies. So it makes even more sense now to follow these two. Like, maybe not every episode, but I can see he's coming back here, a couple of times throughout the season.
I hope so, because I'm not gonna lie, I kind of found this side of things more interesting than June this episode.
For this episode, yeah, I agree with that.
So, not to say I don't want more of June's box, obviously I do, but I hope this is a continuing thing.
I think it will be. I think this is like one of these things. Like, I think maybe in the book, I imagine there probably wasn't much of the actual colonies, and that's one of the things that they're exploring with season 2. Hence why we're just kind of getting to it now. But it did build up the intrigue and mystery a little bit, and now that we have two main characters who are kind of come here, it's like, okay, we have people who can play off of each other and have the story develop in that way. So, June's side of things, she actually gets transported to what turned out to be the Boston Globe, the newspaper office, which has now been abandoned, but you can see all the printing presses in the basement, and then there's all the boxes of newspapers everywhere. And some of my favourite stuff in this was actually her just wandering about the building and kind of searching. It almost is the first time the show's really felt post-apocalyptic, because it's like a scene in like a post-apocalyptic movie where the building's been abandoned and she's seeing the remnants, the family photos, all that sort of stuff on the desks, and it had that feeling to it.
I think it's because obviously last season most of the time we were inside the city, and it was all it had this nice clean front.
Yeah, the heavy controlled areas, yeah.
Right, and the few times we ventured out, to the club and stuff, it was always, she's in the car, she's accompanied. You never got to just see the world
again,
like this.
Going back to what we keep saying about the direction, it's only if she sees it that we get to see it. So yeah. This makes complete sense. And I thought all that stuff was really well shot, had this nice eerie, empty feeling to it. And I thought it did neat little things, like the whole thing where she sees the one shoe up at the desk, and then when she does go into the basement where they've all been like slaughtered and massacred by a firing squad and or hung, you see the other shoe. And it's like it tells this story in two parts. It's really simple, but it tells the story that this woman was dragged from her desk and then brought down here and killed. And you really get that. And of course there's other moments like when Nick shows up and she's like so terrified that it's someone coming to get her, and she's ready to bash him in the head with a hammer. And like it's building up to it just being Nick or someone friendly. Like it has that feeling to it.
I think it's because we're waiting for, because obviously we know he's brought her here, and we're like, okay, so she's gonna have some. If it wasn't him, it was gonna be the next part of the chain.
Yeah, and you see, because also one of the things that's been lost is like all the city names. Like, I mean, most of the people didn't even know which city they were in. They guessed they were in Boston, but they weren't sure. June probably had a better idea because she seems to have actually come from Boston. But you see like here clearly like Boston flags and various things like around the office, and just the idea of all the things that have been lost. I feel like that's the big theme of this episode more than anything else, is the world that was lost when all this stuff happened, all down to her finding a Friends DVD and watching an episode of Friends, and they ponied up for like, I guess a clip.
Yeah, I mean, short clip, but it counts.
That does. I don't think Friends comes cheap. That's what I'm saying.
Probably not, because I mean it's everywhere and everyone loves it, so they get to charge what they want.
Yeah. So, and of course, the clip she's watching is a jokey bit about pleasing a woman in bed. It's the clip with Monica and Rachel. Monica and Rachel basically listing all the points in the woman's body you're supposed to hit during sex to achieve achieve all your goals, and Chandler being kind of like shocked by it. And it's like an amusing clip in the context of this, because this is all stuff that no one's allowed to talk about anymore.
Yeah, especially the idea is there is nothing that's supposed to be. It's about giving a woman pleasure, which is the
Yeah.
point of the Friends clip.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And Chandler, being an idiot, is sucked at it and doesn't know what to do, and he wants to learn and be better, which is like the total opposite of like
Yeah, whereas
all
with this
this.
brother, they don't care, just whatever.
So you've got that. You've got everything else. The fact that the end credits plays like the audio commentary from when the Red Sox won the World Series for the first time in however God knows how long.
I think it said 95 years, but
That
maybe
sounds
I'm
about right.
maybe I'm wrong on that one.
I was familiar with this big like sort of end of the dry spell, but mainly from Lost, because that was like a character beating Jack for Jack and Lost.
Hell of a dry spell, isn't it? 95 years.
It's a hell of a dry. Not as much as the Cubs, which almost matched the Back to the Future 2 prediction. But
Yeah.
hey,
I wasn't really familiar with this one, but whatever. I don't care about.
Basically,
these
what
spoilers.
happened in Lost, without getting too spoiler for the plot of the show, there was like part of Jack's flashbacks where his dad used to say to him, "Oh, that's why the Red Sox will never win the World Series." That was like one of the phrases that he always said, because they hadn't never done it in their lifetimes. His lifetime, never mind Jack's. Yeah. And after a couple of seasons, to prove that people on the island, to prove that they had contact with the outside world, brought in like a TV and showed the winning game of the World Series, which just so happened to happen like after season 1 of Lost. Like it just so happens that happened, so they were able to use it in plot. Like, hey, this happened.
Well, that's cool. And then they presumably didn't believe it, because it's like that would never happen.
So it's just funny that did that, and then Back to the Future's prediction that the Cubs would win the World Series in 2015. I mean, they were a year off, but that is...
It's pretty damn close, isn't it?
It's scary close. But hey, so yeah, the idea that we've lost things, and at first she's like desperate to get out of there. She's she's like, hey Nick, give me your gun and your keys. I'm leaving, and blah blah blah. Well, actually, she doesn't ask for the gun. He offers the gun because she's going to leave, and he knows it's futile. And she kind of realizes this at the last second. She kind of she stares at the truck. She's opened the door. She's ready to go, but she's like, shit, no, I can't. And she comes back. But then in a way to like get back something and to feel control of something, because she feels so helpless, right? Even though she's free, she still feels that she's trapped in this world. And she takes control. So not only do they have sex, like she actually gets kind of forceful in some way. She like grabs his hair. She's like, she's the one feeling dominant in the scene. And that plays out. In fact, it actually cuts ahead and they're still having sex. The implication, and he even makes a joke that he can't do it again. He's like, no, like I'm done.
Yeah,
and she's
and
like,
she
no,
goes
try.
for it anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, it's an amusing little cut, but it plays really well for a character. And then after this, she's watching some Friends, and then she decides to gather up personal items from all the deaths, and she goes down to where they were all killed, and she makes like a little monument out of
memorial wall.
Well, yeah, basically. And obviously, there's at one point, like one of the deaths had like a pride flag, and that nicely links it to the other plot in the episode. But there's also lots of other people and everything else, and it's the whole idea that she's kind of in some small way taking it back. Like, no, like no one else might care, but I remember these people. I care about these people, even if I never met them. And that's the ending of the episode. It's a really sweet kind of little ending. Again, the show makes you feel like shit, but then it'll just do a little bit to like, and you understand why it makes her feel a little bit better that she's done this, and you feel a little bit better because she has done it. And I think this episode is intentionally with her kind of just, no, she's in this building, she's on her own, and she's dealing. This is the first time she's really had to actually just like sort of sit and actually think about everything that's happened to her, because she's always been in so much danger and so much turmoil and so much like,
it's always been just in the moment.
Yeah, whereas this is the first time she's had to sort of sit down and just reflect, really reflect, and see like not just what happened to her, but what happened to everyone. And I think that's why this was intentionally, no, we're focusing on the other plot of this episode, and her plot of this one is a bit more subdued and just I feel like her stuff is going to spin up into more stuff come next episode. So
most likely, she's still, as much as we're introducing Emily as a second main character, June's still our focus, at least for now.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I don't think anything will change that. And I also expect we'll see a lot more of Serena Joy and Fred and their search for June. I expect to get more of that in the coming episodes as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they put these two episodes out together, because obviously they make the choice as to how many they're putting out at once. Because obviously we got 3 last season and only the 2 this season. I think it's interesting that we got the first one, which we kind of said it kind of felt like a prologue, and then this one that goes, okay, no, we're widening the field of view as well. We're not just focusing on June. We're bringing in the others.
I mean, arguably, I'd say kind of like the first episode focuses mainly on June, and then the second episode focuses mainly on Emily, and they're kind of saying,
Yeah,
here's our two main focal points for the season.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah. It's kind of a statement as to this is what we're doing. This is us laying down the plan. So no, and I feel like, I mean, if I was picking between the two, I like the first one a bit more, but I mean, it's like,
I'm torn. I think the first one's a tighter episode overall,
mm-hmm.
but I do like the Emily stuff here a lot more. I think this one's a little bit uneven because I found myself going, oh, I want more of that one, and I was like, oh, okay, we'll get back to June for a little bit here or there. I'm like, oh, stop pulling me away from the thing I'm getting into.
Sure. I just think the high points of episode one just hit even more for me. The excitement of those high points of her escaping, of all the hanging stuff at the start, of like all the end where she finally burns her outfit, like all that stuff was really big, like like really big moments for the show, especially given all the build up we've had to these moments. Whereas this episode was more resetting the table. This was okay. Here's the new things for this season. Here's like, okay, here's where June is now. Here's where Emily's been, and building these new blocks. And I'm sure we'll see more stuff. And I expect probably see more Clea Duval and her daughter, in Canada maybe at some point. Kind of like how we saw Luke eventually in Canada last season.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if we did. If not, well, I'm sure we'll get some more flashbacks with them.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, some before, some after. Just kind of like how Junes have been jumping around, depending on how many we get. So, no, it's good stuff.
I will say as well, doing that means that we have more space with the flashbacks, because obviously the danger with flashbacks is you feel trapped into doing them, and you run out of interesting things to say. Here, okay, let's say they feel like they're running out of what they want to say with June's flashbacks. Okay, here we go. We've just introduced a whole new character that we can say whole new things with.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So no, there you go. Hell, it would even surprise me because we did get that one episode, remember, of Serena Joy's flashbacks last season.
Did, yeah.
And that was a big deal. I wonder if we'll get more of hers at some point this season.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Or whoever else we could possibly think of, but no.
What I really want is Aunt Lydia's.
Oh, we could get that. I could see that happen.
I could see it, and I think that would be fascinating to see her journey and what she was like before that made her into this. Like, because all the other ones we kind of have vague bits of information, whereas I don't know anything about. I feel like
the more obvious route to go down with her is that she had a pretty crappy life before, and this is making her feel important than more important than she was before. So she's getting off on the fact that she feels that she's a part of something big and important.
Yeah, quite possibly.
That she's prominent, that she's not just... whereas, everyone else we're seeing, for varying degrees, had good lives. I mean, in fact, one of the things we forgot to talk about last episode that we should have brought up was the fact that June and Luke had actually decided to have a second baby. Like they actually had that flirtatious moment. It was like, hey, let's have another baby. And you almost feel at the end of the episode when they see the thing in Washington, it's like, okay, this is a bad idea. Let's not bring any more kids.
Not into this world.
Yeah, the timing is not right for this at all. So no. But no, the episode was really good. Season is really good so far. No reason to question that this season might not, won't be up to the same standards as season one. Heartbreaking and stuff. Someone pointed out actually the driver of the food van, the frozen van, last episode was actually the same butcher from season one that helped her at the counter, which makes a lot of sense. Actually,
it does. I'll be honest, it's been so long.
Oh yeah, I couldn't remember his face at all. Like if you could have put them all in a lineup. Like
I wouldn't have been able to pick him out.
Yeah, it's been too long since I've seen his face, but that's a cool touch. I like that. Yeah. Good stuff. So. That is Handmaid's Tale episode 2 of season 2. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, over at patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. And one final point, actually, one final point. Just
bring it on me.
We always talk about the close-ups with June. I noticed there was a lot more wide shots in the building because she was on her own and it was big and empty. And it was really pointing out how alone she was now.
It's look at all this space, because obviously she's never really had the freedom of space.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was worth mentioning, the difference in style looking at her because she's in this new situation. So anyway, really cool stuff. So thanks very much for watching. Keep watching TV, guys. We'll see you next time. Have you got any vanilla?